Good morning. My name is Andy Lyon. I'm a Public Information Officer with Pacific Northwest Team 2. And I'm here with what we are calling our Live at Sunrise report. It's 6:15 and we are live at the Incident Command Post in Winthrop. And we are here to give you a report on the Crescent Mountain, McLeod, and Holman fires. So what I'm going to talk about this morning is I'm going to give you a little bit of an operational update about what we did yesterday, what we learned yesterday, and what we're planning to do today and in the days ahead. We're going to talk a little bit about closures because that's important to all of you, and we're going to talk a little bit about the downsizing of our organization that's in the works in the days ahead. I was out in the community, in your community yesterday, talking to some of you, and everybody was happy because the skies are clear. You can see the mountains, you can see the stars. If you were out this morning like I was, stars are amazing, so it's great to have clear air and to see the mountains and the stars, but there was a little bit of apprehension in the air. So, and that's normal because you've had these big fires over your shoulder for the past 5 weeks. So. And that's a good attitude, I think. We want to be happy with what we've got, but we don't want to quite forget what we still got here because we still have some fire up on the hill, and let's talk about that. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Our numbers for containment, acreage, and personnel have not changed. Crescent Mountain still at 42% contained. McLeod at 55%, and Holman, that little fire that's up in the wilderness off our map here, still at 0% contained, but that hasn't moved over the past 2 weeks. We were keeping an eye on it by air, not a big concern. And our personnel still at 764. That number is behind reality a little bit. You're going to see that number fall quite dramatically over the next few days, but officially for today, we're still at 764. So let's get right into an operational update. Some of our operation folks flew over the fires yesterday afternoon. We had that nice rain a couple days ago, but despite that, yes, there still is some fire up on the hill. I saw some smoke up on these hillsides when I was down along the Twist River Road yesterday afternoon. So there still is fire activity, but there's only a couple areas of concern. Down here, some of you have been asking about this little comma, you call it. That is where the previous team did a burnout a few days ago. That is looking great. There's line around it. We've got people in there. In fact, there's going to be 100 people in there, 5 crews today, an additional 5 engines working this part of the fire and making sure that that's nice and secure. The area of concern is the same area that the previous team had. And it's in the upper buttermilk area right here. That is still active in there a little bit, still moving a little bit. So we're keeping an eye on that, trying to develop a plan to how to deal with that long term and make sure that doesn't cause you a problem. Because even though we're all feeling good about the moisture, about the cooler nights, and about the less fire activity, we all know it can get hot again. Things can warm up in September, even in October. You can have hot, dry, windy days. And we don't want to turn our backs on this, leave town, and then have you have a problem when there's not hundreds of firefighters here to help you deal with it. So that's still a concern area. Up on the McLeod fire, up in Sunshine Creek here, that is our other area of concern. The previous team put in a retardant line up there, and we've seen some backing of the fire through that retardant area. So but they did a whole bunch of other work. They've created contingency lines between the fire and the communities down here above Mazama. Those are all still in place. Those are all still firm, but we're still seeing some fire activity up here. So we want to develop a plan, again, for you long term. What can we do about that to make sure that we're not leaving something that come back to cause us all problems? So that's kind of the operational update. We're still, the rest of the activity is turning now to what we call suppression repair. We want to make sure that a dozer line, for instance, is not going to cause you erosion problems if it gets a lot of rain on it. So we've got to create some water bars in those dozer lines, hand lines, whatever kind of work we've done. We've got to fix that, make it better, make it nicer for you, so that when you do go back into these areas, we're not leaving a muddy mess. And I know these communities, you've had some experience with that. So that's a lot of the other work that's going on. And going back into these areas leads me into the last thing I want to talk about, next to last thing, sorry, closures. We all know you want to get back into these areas, especially now that the air is clear. You're thinking, when can I go back? When can I see what happened to my favorite hunting spot, fishing spot, biking spot, hiking spot? We understand that. I'm a hiker. Some of my favorite trails have been impacted by fires in the past. I understand that. But there's a lot of activity that goes on post-fire, and we are not even at the post-fire phase yet. We still have firefighting going on. We still have lots of operations, lots of people on these roads. It is not safe at this moment to go back into these areas, and it may not be safe for quite some time to go into the burn areas, because a lot of trees have been damaged, and gravity is a constant. Those trees are going to come down. Whether they come down 10 days from now or 10 years from now, sometimes that's hard to say, but we need to do our job, and the Forest Service needs to do the job to assess these areas, to see what the damage has been done, to see what can be done to mitigate it, to see how quickly those areas can be safely reopened, and what needs to be done to make sure that it's safe for the people who have to go in there and mitigate those dangers. So a lot of post-fire activity has to go on, and that has barely begun because we're not at the post-fire phase yet. So rest assured that we will let you know when there's a change in any of these closures. We're going to communicate that to you. Last thing I want to mention, we do have a lot of people heading out. So be aware that a lot of folks are fire trucks, fire engines, fire crews, people in individual cars are going to be on the road in the next few days as we downsize this organization. Be heads up for that. We'll keep you posted. We've still got a lot of people here, still got a full camp here, still a lot of people to handle the fire, but we don't need as many, and so we're downsizing. Same thing's going to happen to our information shop. As the needs become less, there's going to be fewer of us, and we're going to kind of slowly downsize things like this. We may not be doing them a week from now, 10 days from now, because there's not enough people locally to continue to do what those of us who are brought in specifically for the fire to do. There's 7, 8 of us in here specifically assigned to work on this fire. When we leave, not only do the local folks have to deal with these fires, but they got to deal with every other issue on the 4 million acres of the Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest. So they got a lot on their plate. So we're going to kind of downsize our information flow so that when we leave, they're able to provide you with the information you need, but maybe not being here live at 6:15 and giving you these kind of updates, if that makes sense. So that's our update from our incident command post. We'll see you tomorrow.